Coming to. All my life, they were always there to help me as I struggled by, and I kept on wildly thrashing out into the weeds, far from any path. All those times they gave to me many things I did not earn or deserve at all. Still, I never thought of joining them to become a human being. Everywhere I traveled, people took me in and helped to clean me up. I thought that I was thankful then, but now it simply brings me tears. Every time I took a step, someone was there to help me with my fall. But I believed I made my own way, asking nothing and with no help at all. Anything that I accomplished, someone stood quietly behind my shoulder. Yet I blundered on, macho pride pulled down tightly across my eyes. All the things I read were gifts I ripped open and then quickly cast aside, and I thought that I was filling some kind of void with a congealing wisdom. All my life my debts increased as I made messes everywhere I went. I ragged upon our foolish leaders, ignoring those who kept things going. All those times they picked me up when I ran off blindly, then fell down, and I only looked for a selfish lesson as I hurried off once again. Everywhere I went it seemed I made a comfortable and easy living. I never questioned the poverty and suffering that I saw all around me. Every time I made more new friends, I had already cast aside the old. Now sometimes I sit alone and wonder how they all have been. Anything at which I did not succeed was no real fault of mine. My old attitudes are far more painful now than those simple failures. All the things that I relied upon came from the invisible work of others. Though far too late, I wish now to thank all those who came before me. All my life I broke unspoken promises and walked away from silent vows. Yet somehow an unearned love at last began to open up my eyes. Far too often I took too much and threw away the spoiled remains. Now I find a simple pleasure in the repair and use of cast-offs. Everywhere I traveled, gentle music played somewhere in the background. I never took the time to stop and listen with all of those good people. Every time I began to find a home, I made new plans and simply drove away. Now I wonder at my actions, just as others did so long ago. Anything I finished I laid upon my wondrous brightness, but I merely perched in blindness upon the works of others. All the things I took for granted came with huge bills that I never saw. These great debts I have accrued have now brought poverty to my soul. All my life good people of quiet faith were always there to bail me out. I never really saw them as they shook their heads in silent patience. All those times I only ranted over the stupidity, greed, and waste I saw. They just went on with the work that kept the wheels upon our world. Everywhere I landed, there were those who took the time to do things right. Incorrectly, I thought them docile pawns of the fools that were in charge. Every time I lay upon the ground, I saw only futility in their tireless efforts. At last I grasped the great necessity of the endless, hopeless struggle. Anything I simply took for granted really took more effort than I was worth. At least now I can work a while to pay off a bit of my debt of shame. The voices that now call me, I did not have the time to listen to back then. I wonder at the willful ignorance from which I may at last be emerging. All my life the work I did was based not on giving, but on taking. Finally I stumbled to the service of that which has quietly sustained me. All those times I weaved blindfolded, tottering across unknown landscapes, I struggle with the memory of the dead zone that expanded all around me. Everywhere I left my mark, good people stood and shrugged their shoulders. Now I too cannot understand, but then I did not even know enough to try. Every time I grew too hateful, their calming aura drew me from the brink. Finally, I simply try to add a tiny phrase to that peaceful chorus. All the people that I never noticed were so puzzled as I blundered by. Now I often sit and shake my head as if coming to from some harsh blow.